You asked me how, as a seminarian, I prepare myself intellectually during my formation time for my priestly life. For last 35 years, I am a priest as a missionary of St. Francis de Sales. I joined this congregation of the Franciscans to work in the missions. For the last 35 years, except 2 years immediately after my ordination, work in the missions, 33 years I was in a seminary. Even during my doctoral research at the University of Freiburg, I stayed in the scholasticate of the Franciscans. And I never imagined, in wildest dream, that I would be teaching theology as a professor. This background I tell you because during these seminary days, I prepare myself to be an effective minister or an effective minister in the field, minister of the word and the sacrament, and an effective missionary. So during my philosophy time as well as my theology times, I took my studies seriously in order to become an effective missionary. I was never satisfied with classes alone, which the professor is very scholarly and very wonderfully communicated to me. So many questions were arising in my mind, both during the philosophy time as well as the theological study, doing the theological studies. And the classroom itself, some of those doubts were clarified or cleared. And some which were not cleared, I could ask the professor later, or I used to find the books or articles they have suggested. So when others used to enjoy most of the time in other activities, I took special effort to make extra readings connected with the subjects that was taught in the class. So much so during my philosophy time itself, when I look back, I wonder with myself doing things which others were not doing. In philosophy time itself, when the courses were offered for the languages Hebrew and Greek, the afternoons, I used to sacrifice my siesta and attend this optional course of Hebrew and Greek. My idea was to read. It was my desire, just not idea, but strong desire to read the scriptures in their original languages. And during my theology studies, there were a lot of questions on dogmas or doctrines which used to come in my mind during the course or even before that. So I used to listen carefully to the lectures, as well as more I used to learn from deepen my knowledge of what I learned in the class by reading articles or books connected with these subjects. So I took extra effort. This I am telling you not because today I am a professor, I thought of doing research in theology, not in this sense. Just wanted to be an effective minister of the word and sacrament, a priest, a missionary, a religious, who is able to communicate convincingly to people about our Christian faith, about Jesus Christ, about the doctrines and doctrines of the church, dogmas of the church. And I said to myself, if people raise questions, I must have an answer that is satisfying, that is reasonable, that is convincing, and therefore it must be convincing for myself first. So that is why I took effort to learn the subjects with extra effort by reading articles that will add additional knowledge or deepening of my knowledge, and what is more than taught during the classroom. So my whole purpose was that But eventually I was, towards the end of my theological studies, I was asked to teach, come back to the faculty of Pune. But I insisted that I must go to the mission. I must work in the missions. So 2 years I worked in the missions of Andhra Pradesh. And then I continued my studies. And then later in Pune and now in Bangalore I teach theology. So when I look back at my seminary days, I said this inner voice, that inner need, the desire to learn, desire to satisfy my own curiosity, you can say, or that we call it Brahma Jignasa, a kind of desire to know, that was swelling up from within myself, that need to be satisfied. So I took extra efforts, which some of my companions also used to do. But then we are not in the larger crowd where people were satisfied the minimum, but we took extra effort, not because somebody challenged us, somebody told us to do, it all came from within. And I responded to that inner call to making best use of my time for this extra studies, intellectual formation by myself. And that is in order to be an effective minister, because this is a way I respond my vocation as a religious and priest and a missionary. So I said I must be committed 100% to that. So I took my study seriously, and the challenges that came from within, I responded with the grace of God adequately, I believe, so that the later time I could look back and say, thank God I took that effort, so it became much more easier for me, my further studies, and also to communicate convincingly as also as a professor. Thank you.